What's going on, guys? Rewind Mike here, and I'm back with some more retro goodness. This time, I'm actually going to be stepping out of the normal sort of Nintendo review kind of thing, and I'm going to be reviewing a Sega game for the first time. First of all, I'd like to announce that I've just joined Multitap! Yay! It's a big circle jerk of fucking awesome people. You guys should totally go check them out. I'll probably drop a link to the page and the website as well, which I'll be posting to, quite frequently now. But, now that we got all the cool stuff out of the way, we're just going to jump right into this review. We're going to see what this game's all about. Toki was originally released in arcades by the TAD Corporation, not known for many games other than one I've mentioned before, Cabal, which is a shooter that birthed its own niche genre. Shortly after its release in the arcade, Toki was ported to many home consoles and computers. The company Ocean published versions for the Amiga and the Atari ST, and on the console side, Taito were responsible for porting it to the Atari Lynx and the Nintendo Entertainment System, none of which we'll be talking about. Instead, another company had the chance to get their hands on the game and port it to their own system. The Sega company received permission to make a version of Toki. They completely reprogrammed the game for the Genesis and the Mega Drive, and they put out Toki, going apespit. Released early on in the life of this 16-bit console, Toki usually flies under the radar and you don't really hear too many people ever talking about it. Now, I remember playing this game like it was going out of style when I was a kid. I was fortunate enough to be given my cousin's Genesis with all of his games. He was over playing video games, and I was more than happy to take it and all of the games off of his hands. In the mix of those games was Toki, and I had no idea what I was in for. The cover art to the game is just beautiful looking, like most of the early Sega box art, not the Master System. If there's anything else that can be said about this box art, is that it's honest. It's a literal depiction of what the game is. But before we go into all of that, let's talk about this early Sega masterpiece. When you first turn on Toki, it opens up with a nice little cutscene. We meet our barbarian hero, Toki, and his girl Wanda by his side. They're sitting in a field enjoying the beautiful afternoon. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this setup really reminds me of another game.
Ghosts and goblins.
Anyway, suddenly the sky turns black. The ground shakes, and a castle which looms in the darkness rises above the distant mountains. Holy crap! And then, without warning, a hand comes careening towards the unfortunate couple. It swipes Wanda from the ground and carries her off towards the castle, knocking Toki back. And it's in that instance that Toki comes face to face with our villain, Dr. Stark. He turns him into an ape, then vanishes. Toki, confused, doesn't have a clue what happened, but he does know this. By using the power of spit, he will get his girl back. Filled with determination and spit, our barbarian will get his revenge. That's right, I said spit. Toki uses a spitting projectile attack for clearing those pesky enemies out. With the press of A or C button, you can shoot phlegm bubbles at enemies in every direction but down. The whole point of the game is to literally spit in the face of your enemy, so this is fun. Toki's only trick isn't hawking loogies in multiple directions, but utilizing tokens strewn about the stages. Each token gives a different spitting pattern a la Contra. Being an ape, you would think Toki's movement would be fast-paced. It's not. He moves slower than in any other game, which is the only real setback to playing going apespit. Also, some of the jumps are a bit harder than they should be. Now don't get me wrong, it doesn't take away from the experience or make the game boring in any way. Luckily, there is a pair of shoes you can acquire to make you run faster and jump higher. Yep, a monkey in sneakers. One more thing that can set this experience back. You take one hit, you die. This wouldn't normally be a problem in any other platforming game, but when you die in this game, there are no checkpoints. You go back to the start of each stage. Brutal! This can be a blemish on a rather amazing title, especially one from the early life of the Genesis. You can pick up a star that will give you temporary invulnerability, but these are far and few apart. So why all the spitting and jumping, Mike? Well, like any other platformer, there are enemies in the game. Duh! These aren't your normal baddies either. There is a wide array of creatures that are trying to take you down. They're nothing special, but each one does have a unique attack which can make some of the platforming a bit tougher. There are spinning apes, demon apes from hell, flying ape heads, apes in knight armor, and apes driving submarines. Apes! If you think you're gonna breeze your way through this game, think again. Toki spans 9 different worlds, each containing 3 stages within. That's 27 levels of platforming goodness, waiting for you to explore. And that makes this game longer than any of the other ports made of it. Early on, the game will have you traveling to the right, which we all know is customary with all platform games. The typical jumping gaps, riding platforms, and killing enemies. Nothing too crazy here. The boss of this world is Stark's machine. Ooh. It's just an easy World 1 boss. You destroy all the heads and it's over. Right as you start getting used to the slow-paced movement, the second world is all vertical, avoiding hazards and climbing vines as if not to get crushed or brought down to a spiky death. Way to change it up, game. It's here we're also introduced to platforms that disappear if you stand on them too long, and blocks that disintegrate if you jump on them from a certain height, making this level a bit more tough than the last. This world's boss is Prime Evil. Just mash that shoot button and avoid the rotates. Yeah, that's right. Their name. They jump and rotate towards you. Rotates. This game will give you no stable ground, and World 3 is no exception. It is the dreaded cliche of the underwater world. The levels here are maze-like, and can be tough if not taken slowly. The enemies are kind of annoying here too, with these little pufferfish that explode into spinning spikes of death. But navigating around them isn't really a big problem. The boss here is Boomer, has a ton of health. Manned by a team of apes, it charges at you and it shoots ape-like missiles from the ape-like submarine. You heard me right, more apes. Worlds 4 through 7 really step it up. These are some of the hardest platforming sections in the whole game. It's here that every platform trick is thrown into a blender. Huge gaps with bottomless pits, moving platforms, vine climbing, slippery surfaces, and a few new enemies sprinkled in between all of that. This is all very certainly welcomed in comparison to a lot of platforming games that have the same pace with a tired old left-to-right gimmick. World 8 is notable. It's a dimly lit cave, and the only way to illuminate it, get ready for it, is by spinning continuously. That's right. Toki's spit has the ability to light up the cave. What can't this spit do? Aside from that being weird logic, I really like the effect, and that makes this one of the more enjoyable worlds to play through. And that wraps up another review. It's about time that I covered a Sega game, and what a fitting one at that. This was one of my favorite games. Now, I never really got to beat it as a kid, and, I'm finally glad that I really took the time to sit down and do that. Do I think that Toki is worth purchasing? Fuck yeah, I do, man. This game is fucking great. It's got everything that you want from a platformer, and it's really unique, honestly, with the whole idea what they got with it. But even if you don't like the gameplay, it's still worth getting for that high fantasy art, and that was the good thing about that Sega box art from the early times. It was very high in fantasy. Anyway, guys, I'm Rewind Mike. I really hope you enjoyed that, and see you next time.
Woo! Go to multitap.com today. You can do it!